ever since I'm now.
This is air conditioning day, so we're talking about troubleshooting intermittent AC concerns, a lot of little tips and tricks and all that. And basically, remember she's taking notes. I want to see how many done. I will grade your notes. If you didn't take good notes, if you wrote, fix AC on your sheet or something like that, it's a fresh and burn. All right. Before we start, we got a little blurb here. This is a guy that watches my YouTube videos right here. This guy, he says, I truly value these videos you upload. I've been a technician for 9 years. I learn a lot from each of your lessons, but I cringe when I see the lack of respect some of your students have. They should be so lucky to have someone educated as you teach them. I wish I had you as a teacher. Ta-ta-ta. That's tooting my own horn. Okay. All right, here's another guy that wrote this post. I have to agree with this 100%. I've worked 3 jobs and paid to go to school with a teacher like you. I enjoy the job, my videos myself. Look forward to each new one you post. Yay! All right, so know what you got going, right? All right, the thing about air conditioning customers, they can always find the money to get the AC fixed. You know what I'm saying? Typically, They often have no problem spending $1,000 for an air conditioner repair on a vehicle worth $800. Now, the bottom line is the air conditioner works one of the most profitable services shops offer. Most customers expect to dig deep when their AC system acts up. Now, we don't want to ream people out for, the bill or anything like that, but for the most part, people want their air conditioner working, and you can fix their AC. Now, don't use low quality parts. That's the worst way to have it. If you're using crummy parts and it doesn't last, they're just not going to be happy. Because when you get hot again, it's not pleasant. Don't skimp on quality. Better parts usually cost more for a reason. Now, there are some places, if you know where to buy the parts. One of the places I like to get parts, and I don't know what everybody else, I like Ranshoe. Now, you got to be a shop to order from Ranshoe. Ranshoe's got really good parts, and they got good quality parts typically, and they're for a real reasonable price. Now, do it right the first time. Don't oversell. Replace only what's needed. There are some people that want to replace every doggone thing on there, just to make sure that they cover themselves. Don't try to get rich on one job. Treat the customer like you want your mother treated. Stand behind your work. Don't tackle a job you're not completely comfortable doing. There's nothing wrong with telling a customer you don't service that brand or system. So if it's, just don't be afraid of that. Here's something else. If the air conditioner has a leak, I have never seen one get better. It's not going to stop leaking until somebody fixes the leak, right? So it ain't going to get better by itself. Also, if you want to make sure that you're going to have trouble with your air conditioner, spend a heck of a lot of time in a hot parking lot idling with the air conditioner on. It's a bad scene, it's hard on the system and all that. People are still writing. We like, note takers are good, they are our friends. Katie, did you write 2 words? All right. Well, none of us know what the future of automotive air conditioning will be, but you can bet air conditioning will be a part of the transportation for years to come. That R1234 refrigerant is coming out on a lot of cars now. There's a lot of cars that are coming out that are new that are having that R1234 refrigerant. And it's really expensive. You got to have different equipment to use with it, and it works a slightly different way, and so on and so forth. Now, one of the things that they're doing, some of the systems that I have read about that keeps it out of the passenger compartment is they actually cool some coolant with the air conditioner and run that through the through sort of like a heater core, but it's a cooler core in there, and there's probably more than one way they do it, but I'm just talking out of my head on that for now. Before you tear into a dashboard, how many of you have pulled a dashboard out? You got that Jeep. You got that thing all the way back to the bulkhead and all that. Take the vehicle for a test run. Observe the speedometer, odometer, wipers, washers, radio, tape player, CD player, clock, navigation, everything you can to determine, because you're going to pull the dashboard out, it's going to be really intrusive, right? So if you get it back, let's say you drive the thing and you found out that the tape player doesn't work right or whatever, you know what I'm saying, or the CD player doesn't work right. Okay, if you write that down before you ever tear it apart, and you make a note of it, then you're going to be able to come back and say, look, I noticed, even before you tear it apart, you might want to call a customer and say, look, I noticed your CD player is not working right. You might want to think about replacing that before you ever tear into it. Because a lot of the times if you tear into one and you put it back together, they come back and say, hey, my CD player is not working right. See what I mean? I mean, that's the kind of thing you got to, so be on the lookout for air, strange noises. It would be especially good to have the vehicle owner go on the ride with you so anything you find can be pointed out and documented. So you're riding along with a customer in a seat and said, I noticed this doesn't work right. I hear a rattle in the dash over there, you know, maybe we see about that, no guarantees and all that. And, you know, you pick out the stuff that you see that they're liable to come back and hit you with. See what I mean? Because there are a lot of those people, you know, this, there's two things, you know, there's, that the folks around here, a lot of these folks won't say this, say, it's just like it was, you know, if it's not fixed. Or they'll say, this wasn't like that before. You know, that's one of the things. So back at the shop, make sure all the dash illumination lamps work. Get that, you know, throw the blanket over the shop, the fender cover over your head, the cloth one, and make sure that you can see the dash light. Make sure all of that stuff works. Make sure the dash mounted switches for proper operation, everything work right. Don't forget to check engine light. A quick code scan wouldn't hurt. Write all that stuff down. Put it on the back of the ticket. Make darn sure that you got yourself covered. Observe the condition of the dash. Look for hairline cracks. Once you start pushing or pulling, those hairline cracks will grow. If you got a little crack in the dash already, when you start twisting around on that dash, that crack will get bigger. So you want to point that out too. Got a hairline crack right here. You cannot get trim parts for a lot of these older vehicles. Even if it's 7, 8 years old, ain't no trim parts available for it. So just make sure that they are sure. If you got a little crack in the dash, when I start pulling this out, this is liable to get worse. I just wanted you to know about this going in, right? And so a one-piece dash might become a 5 or 6 piece dash, you know, situations like that. I got a lot of that stuff from Glenn Farrell. He's really good, you know. View digital pictures can settle a lot of arguments. He takes them before and after. Before, this is what it looked like before I started, this is what it looked like after. Make sure all the fan speeds work, the ducts operate like they should, including the temperature control blend door. Look under the hood, make sure the heater core has both hoses hooked up, and all AC lines and hoses accumulator are connected. Everything looks like it left the factory, plus a little road ground. So basically, you want to make sure that you know what kind of shape this thing's in to start with, so you don't get in trouble later. All right. Now, what's inside the dash? If you come across anything that doesn't look right, spliced wires, glued plastic parts, baling wire. Actually, that's misspelled. Blend door or board door lever. Anything that's not working right or doesn't look right, make a note of it on the invoice, so the next time somebody goes into the dash, you know, this stuff was already like that. All right, so these few steps might take a few extra minutes, but they may save you wasted hours and big bucks at the end, and maybe a sleepless night or two. All right? So, hey,
now what was you telling them?
Oh, what I was telling them, they're gonna give me a PO just as soon as she gets it, and then I'll give you all the PO. All right. She brought your brake parts here.
Okay.
All right, this wouldn't be an intermittent problem. What do you see here? What do you see? Anybody see anything?
A lot of grud in that clutch.
Sir?
A lot of grud in the clutch.
You talking about this stuff right here?
Yeah.
That means the clutch is burned out. Now, that's not going to be an intermittent problem, okay? That's just one of the things I wanted to point out. So, we can all get calls where the AC system gets ice cold and quits cooling anywhere from a few minutes to a day or more. Now, here's the question. If it gets ice cold to start with, does that mean it's low on refrigerant? Probably not, right? Like the toothache that goes away when this stuff, most of these intermittent problems go away with the vehicle reaching the shop. And so you're going to have to figure out your way to smoke that out. One of these 4 things is usually the problem. This doesn't mean this is always what's wrong, but one of these 4 things is typically the problem. Either the clutch relay, pressure sensor. Who's seen that recently? Did you hold your hand up?
No.
Be careful when you're at an auction, you just bought a tractor, okay? But who's seen a pressure switch?
I think I did.
On what?
It was on that car.
The Cadillac.
The kind of one.
Yeah, right?
Kind of
Right, it was a crossover, right? Clutch coil. A clutch coil usually will be an all the time deal. It won't be a sometimes deal. However, the air gap on the clutch can be an intermittent thing, and usually is. Blend door. Blend door is what gives you your warm and your cold. It's what moves when you turn the knob from left to right.
See, mine don't have that problem unless my cable snaps. I have a cable on mine.
Yeah, you got a cable. Or the door in the dash breaks or something like that. Sometimes it may take an hour or more for the problem to show up. Now in this case, you're supposed to work smart, right? So if you've got one that you're working on that you're going to have to play a waiting game with, put your gauges, your stuff on there and all that stuff, like you're going to be measuring your temperature and everything.
Listening to the radio.
And then get a different car and be working on that while this is going on. Don't be over there sitting around with your feet propped up playing on your phone. The boss comes and says, "What the heck are you doing?" "Oh, I'm waiting for this car to act up." "Well, get another job and start working on it. You gotta work smart. It's best to be working on 2 or 3 or 4 jobs at one time so that you can always have some money flowing, right? All right. Hook up the gauges, start the engine, set the control head to full cold. Control head to full cold means the blue and the red knob, right? Set the lower speed to the lowest setting. That's when it's going to get as cold as it's going to get, and the air conditioner compressor is going to cycle off and on a lot. Just put in cyclers. Press the max recirculation button. That's letting the air come inside the car and be re-cooled over and over and over again, and it's supposed to get really, really cold inside the car. Set the engine RPM to 1500 RPM. You may have to take your little pocket screwdriver or something and prop it on the throttle, or, you know, do something, you know, a little adjustable stick on the pedal, whatever you got to do, just make sure you don't over rev it, right? Okay. One time I had a student in here, we had the Mercury Sable sitting over there in that middle service bay, that flat stall. And I said, bring it up to 1500 RPM, in an old car with a lot of miles on it, bring it up to 1500 RPM and hold it there, and we're going to watch these oxygen sensors. And so he went all the way to the floor, and then was going to come back to 1500, and the gas pedal stuck under the floor mat, and he threw 2 rods out of the car, sitting right there. Kind of like a bomb going off. And we had to build another motor for the Sable. Right? All right. It may take an hour or more for the problem to show up. Put the electronic thermometer probe in the center vent. All it doesn't have to be electronic. You can use one of these little kind here. Wait and watch. Try to make the compressor cycle as much as possible. Now, there was a girl in here from New Brockton that was in the program that one summer, and her Dodge truck, she had a Dodge pickup, and it would freeze up. This would get colder and colder and colder and colder and colder and colder. It would never cycle the compressor off. So what do you think's going on there? Something off the top of your head. What causes the compressor to cycle off? How does what cycles the compressor off anyway? Typically, what's the trigger for cycling the compressor?
Plugs go off?
Get any? Well,
Pressure switch.
the low pressure cutout switch is basically when the pressure goes below a certain. See, because pressure and temperature are correlated in there. Pressure goes below a certain temperature, that low pressure cutout switch is supposed to, you know, either send a signal to the engine controller or something to make it, you know, or back in the day they'd actually run the power of one of the compressor through these switches. Long and short of it is, her low pressure cutout switch was stuck. It was never open. If the compressor clutch relay, the terminals were welded together, they do that same thing. Try to make it cycle as much as possible. You can actually feel the pressure switch and relay click on most vehicles as they turn off and on. Put your fingers on that, you'll feel it click. Or the relay. Put your finger on the relay, you'll feel it click. Pay attention to that. You okay over there? All right, then. All right, then after the engine's reached full operating temperature, I'd like to move the temperature control to full hot, and then back to full cold to test the blend door. What you want to do is you want the blend door to sweep back and forth and see if it ever hangs up. I go hot, hot. I go cold, cold, hot, hot, cold, and it stays hot. We got a blend door problem. And you can also pinch one of the hoses. You need to make sure it's the one going into the the heater core, and not the one coming out of it. Make sure you know how that goes. Pinch the one going in. If it's blowing hot, the suction line's cold and all. If you pinch that, it starts to cool off. You'll know you got blend door issues because you shut off the hot water going through there. Got it? All right. As soon as the vent temperature starts to rise on the full cold setting, look, see if the pressure's running. In other words, if you're seeing this thing starting to get hot air, but you hadn't done anything except have it on cold, if it starts to get hot air, I'm going to go out here and see if the compressor's still spinning. If the compressor's still spinning and you lost some of your airflow, what do you think that is? Let's say you got a frosty cold suction line. You got a good hot condenser, you got a good hot liquid line, discharge line, but you're starting to lose your cooling. And you're also starting to lose your airflow. I want you to think. Critical thinking skills are important here. What do you think it may be? Everybody's real quiet. Maybe compressor's still running, everything's still cold, you're losing your airflow, it's starting to warm up in there. I would say the evaporator's turning into a block of ice, because the water that was sweating on it like a glass of tea is starting to freeze. This is another thing you can look at, if that suction line has got a lot of ice on it. Usually that means there's a problem. It ought to be sweaty, but typically it's not supposed to be froze up. Might lead me to believe to test the blend door and even the water control valve and all value of all overseeing gauges. But just watch the gauges, make sure that you know what's going on with your pressures too. You know, whenever it's operating like it should, the pressure is going to be on the lower side about 30 roughly, and on the high side it's going to be between 2 and 250. Now that pressure on the high side will be warmer if you're in a situation where the ambient temperature is higher. In other words, if it's a hot day, both of those pressures will be higher because pressure and temperature got a lot to do with that. Now we had a little, and I've got a video about this on my YouTube channel. We had a little Nissan out here, and it would start squealing the belt a little how much you turned on the AC if it was sitting still. So let me ask you this: it starts cooling real good, and then the belt starts squealing.
It froze up and locked it up.
Huh?
It froze up and locked the cooler.
No, it's not going to do that because of freezing up. But what you did have was not enough airflow across the condenser because the fan clutch went bad. This is a little fan clutch. And so how did we determine that was a problem? We dragged one of our little fans over here and we put it in front of the condenser. We let it blow through there, and those pressures came down and they stayed sweet. And the compressor never squealed. See, the head pressure was going up really high because the condenser wasn't getting enough airflow because the fan was never, you know, locking in. The temperature coming through that condenser is supposed to cause that fan to get harder to turn. And there's a little bimetal, it'll either be a coil spring or this one here's got a little thing. If you heat that up with a torch, you'll see that change in shape. Then when you let it cool off, it goes back like it was. That's what a bimetal strip does, because it's got two kinds of metal that expand at different rates. That's another story. If the compressor isn't engaged, I either tap on it or jump the pressure switch. Then tap or jump out the relay. You know, sometimes you pick the relay if it kicks on in, you know, you got a relay issue. Swap it out with another relay. Don't do this unless the relays are exactly the same part number. If you just jerk relays with reckless abandon and swap them around, you may be putting a relay that's going to burn up something. You know, make sure the relays are just alike. Like that one time when that lady sold her Nissan Altima, her blower wouldn't come on for 5 minutes after she started the car. And so what we did was, and then it would kick on, what we did was we took the blower relay and the defrost, the rear defrost relay, and we swapped those around, and she did instant blower. Those little potted relays, you know, are like that. A lot of times they don't operate exactly. They give different kind of problems than regular, you know, electromechanical relays. You get lucky sometimes whenever you swap the relays, you find out what the problem is. All right, if no clutch engagement, use an extreme caution. He taps the front of the clutch up if you can get to it. Sometimes it's down over, you can't get to it. But make sure you don't tap it if it's spinning this way and you tap on it that way and it starts spinning. It's liable to throw the screwdriver back at you. But if you tap on it the way that it's spinning and it clicks in then and it runs until the next time it clicks out, that's an air gap problem. And the air gap can be adjusted on most of them by taking a little pull out, changing, you know, take some shims out, get it closer. About 20,000 an inch or something like that. All right, clutch engages doing either one of these taps or tests, you found the cause. So whatever you gotta know what to tap on, you know, tap on the switch, you know, just a little jump. Now don't hit it with a hammer.
That's what mine looks like.
Huh?
That's what mine looks like.
Yep, that's right. I did that just
4.3.
I took a picture of your truck when you had it over.
It's a 4.3.
Yep. The clutch was engaged, and the evaporator inlet and outlet were warm. The high side was low, the low side was in a vacuum. The new expansion valve and dryer cured out. See that? Maybe 20 just like it. Now I've actually seen it work. One time we had a little Toyota, and we had low, both low. I mean, we had plenty of refrigerant in it, but both pressures were low. I mean, the one on it was real low on the low side, and it was low, a lot lower than it should have been on the high side. And so we put an expansion valve in it. And the expansion valve was in there behind the glove box. You guys listening?
Yeah.
All right, don't threaten to slap her with your dirty hand. Okay, right here, we've got this expansion valve we replaced, and typically that takes care of it. Well, when we fired everything back up, did you like it would, you like it would, and changed everything. So we went ahead and pulled it back apart, put an evaporator in it, and that fixed it. Not exactly sure what was going on with that one, but sometimes you run into crazy stuff like that. All right. A lot of vehicles, they have dual zone or his and her systems. There sometimes these basic manual systems have ductwork that allow half the vents to be cooled by the top half of the evaporator coil and the other half to be cooled by the lower half. So a lot of times technicians will spend time testing the blend doors or removing the dash trying to track down a problem. Could be a waste of time and cost money. A lot of the time, the seal system is low refrigerant. Now, if you've got one that's blowing warm over here and cold over here, first thing I want to do, let's just see how much juice is in it. You can remember, you can't tell by looking at the static readings how much is in there. It may have 100 pounds on both sides, but when you pull it out, what you capture in the recycling machine, if you're watching the scale, is going to tell the tale. If it's supposed to have 1.8 pounds in it, and you're pulling out 0.9, then you know it's half out of juice. And that'll make it blow cool on one side, warm on the other. Now you remember on Judy's vehicle, that edge, I let it run for 30 minutes, and it quit cooling. And we had low pressures all the way around, and you put an expansion valve on that one, and that fixed it, $16 worth, okay? All right, so that's how much the part costs anyway. When you can't fill the inlet or the outlet, install a temperature probe in the far right and far left ducts, and notice the difference in temperature. So put your temperature probe over here, put your one over here. This one here is cooling down to 38, that one over there, it's up around 52. Start with your juice, okay? Electronic thermometer is needed for that, or 2 accurate mechanical thermometers. Add refrigerant at an ounce or so at a time, watching the gauge pressures and watch your refrigerant. What I like to do is pull it all out and put it back in there where it's supposed to go. And what he's talking about is, use the scale here. You got a scale you put your tank on, and then you just let some refrigerant go in there, and you can tell how much by looking at your scale, how much you put in the system and all that. I probably ought to get one of those scales here so y'all can learn to do it that way, because not every shop has a refrigerant recycler. Low system usually indicates a leak, but not always. Sometimes if it's been a long time, if this is a 08 model car and it's never had any refrigerant added to it, and it's a little bit low right now in 2018 or whenever it is, if it's been 10 years, it may just need to be rejuiced, Today's vehicle using less refrigerant, every ounce counts. A lot of them don't take about an ounce of refrigerant. And that's good if it's a 1234 system that costs $80 a pound of refrigerant. System charged in the lower end of its spec range may work well in 80-degree air with 20% humidity. A lot of times somebody say my air conditioner cools just fine at night, but it doesn't cool worth a flip in the daytime. Look for low refrigerant in that situation too. Cabin air filters, used to be few and far between. Real common on high and low end vehicles, but not every vehicle has one. Make sure you look it up. My Explorer, the 06 model, it doesn't have one. They started putting them on Ford Contours in 1995. And Taurus has got a little bit later. Many customers don't even know they exist. A lot of the times, you can be behind a glove box, it'll be under that cowl out there, and you'll find it just totally filthy with, pecans all over it, acres all over it, everything else. Low airflow out the vents, clogged cabin air filters can cause liquid refrigerant to enter the compressor. That is a bad thing, because of the low air movement across the evaporator, refrigerant inside the evaporator may not absorb all the heat, and it may try to go in there. An accumulator will typically stop that, but if it's a receiver dryer system that's got an expansion valve on, you may have an issue with your compressor because of that. Most cabin air filters are easy to get to. Some involve a good bit of dismantling, and it depends on the vehicle. This is the one I was talking about, the fan clutch. See the little spiral spring and all that? Thermostatic fan clutch. Work just the opposite how they could. Cold morning startup, they may suck enough air to draw in small animals. And then in traffic, the hottest part of the day, they may decide to start freewheeling. So you never know. Air conditioners don't provide cold air, they remove heat. So the heat's got to be dissipated by the condenser, and at 60 miles an hour, you don't need a fan. Ram air through the condenser handles the job quite well. Look though, for those, if those dog fennels and straw and everything can go right through that doggone condenser and get trapped in there between the condenser and the radiator. So you may not even see it. You may be looking through the grill and you may see a dadgum thing. But whenever you pull the radiator back, you may see so much straw in there it makes you wonder how the thing was even not overheating. And also sometimes you can basically very gently take your your soap and your spray, if you've got all of that out of there, and you've got all kinds of dust and dirt and everything, it's going to block airflow as well. So be careful with that. Blowing that out of the lead right here. An anemometer is a device that measures wind speed. Costs about $100. They're really common in the commercial refrigeration industry, but they don't hardly ever see them in automotive shops. I do not have one of these. Besides air movement across the condenser, another very good use would be airspeed measurements from the left, center, and right dash vents. If you think the condenser is partially stopped up any kind of way, inside or outside, you can actually watch that thing. Well, if you've got a forward-looking infrared camera gun like we got in there, you can take pictures of it and you can see where it's cool and where it's warm. You can also spray water on it and see where it evaporates really fast. If it evaporates really fast here, but it stays wet down there, then it means it's cool where it's staying wet, okay? That's it, though.
It's like shadows.
All right, because everybody should have at least 6 pages of notes. That's how you make a perfect storm.
Well, that didn't happen.
Okay, tell me something that you're gonna remember. Tell me something that you're gonna take with you from this.
Work smart.
2 words. That's all
Don't
you got out of this
overcharge.
whole thing. Huh?
Don't overcharge.
Don't overcharge. That was at the very beginning of the thing. My
At least,
goodness.
you know, he listened.
What did you get?
Forget.
Did you pick up anything?
Just keep it remembered.
Everything was right, or what
Yeah.
teacher did.
What about you,
Fix
Tim?
AC, I got that one right.
Yeah.
It's fix AC.
Tim's done a whole semester's worth of work on that
That's what I was
Jeep,
gonna
ain't
say, check everything, write it down and take pictures.
he? Yeah, make darn sure. Now, where are you at on the Jeep now?
Air conditioner, everything works, ain't got the radio working.
The radio won't work?
So it's.
Boy, do you know if it was working before?
No, but she says she thinks she was.
Yeah, I think it was working.
Yeah.
I think pretty positive it was working.
Yeah. Well, that's a crummy deal, so we gotta find out why the radio's not working.
Oh, and there's a 20 amp fuse, the one I had replaced the other day under the dash,
Uh-huh.
and that power control module. I have no idea what it does, there's no
It works a
diagram.
little bit.
The only diagram with that vehicle, that's the only year and model that power control module is used by them.
Yeah.
Nobody has a diagram.
Yeah. Well, we'll find out. Did you replace that fuse or?
Yes, and then when I hooked the battery charger back up,
If
it
they
fried.
had money when
Oh,
it
it
comes
popped
back
it,
to
so
the
you got a dead for it, yeah, somewhere, okay. All right, we'll see. All right, everybody have a good lunch. Close the doors before we leave.